Good evening, Summa scholars. So here we are again, and it looks like that I inadvertently erased Article 2 of question 28. So, as it is the end of Sabbath, and I have just got back from Mass, had to go to an evening Mass, and I have people waiting for me downstairs, we're going to zip past through it and fill in those empty corners. All right, let's just go for it. Starting at the top of the page, Part 1, Question 28, Article ending Article 1 and beginning Article 2. Article 1, if you'll recall, the question was whether there are real relations in God. Are there real relations between the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit? I'm just going to start at the top of the page. Contained under the divine order in their very nature entails dependence on God. On the other hand, the divine processions are in one and the same nature, hence no parallel exists. Can't compare good God to man. Reply to objection 4. Relations which result from the mental operation alone in the objects understood are logical relations only, inasmuch as reason observes them as existing between two objects perceived by the mind. Those relations, however, which follow the operation of the intellect and which exist between the word intellectually proceeding and the source whence it proceeds, are not logical relations only, but are real relations, inasmuch as the intellect and the reason are real things, and are really related to that which proceeds from them intelligibly. The first thing he was talking about with relations is purely logical distinctions, like if I say half of that candle. You now know what I mean when I say half of this candle. You know I mean right about ya. But there is actually just one candle. It's a logical distinction. But relations of the intellect, a word, a thought proceeding forth from you, is a real relation with you. It's not just a logical distinction. There really is you, and then there really is this thought that just came up. So there's real relations. So he's going to use that to talk about the relations within God, which are personal, unlike ours. But that's there's still a real relation there. Is the germane point of the metaphor. And are really related to that which proceeds from them intelligibly, as a corporeal thing is related to that which proceeds from it corporeally. Father giving birth to a son. Thus, paternity and filiation are real relations in God. Article 2. Whether relation in God is the same as his existence. Is that relationship between the Father and the Son the same as his actual existence, just like his love and his glory are all the same? It's all his essence. How is it with the relation? Objection 1 from Larry. It would seem that the divine relation is not the same as the divine essence, for Augustine says that not all that is said of God is said of his substance. For we say some things relatively as Father in respect to the Son, but such things do not refer to the substance. Therefore, the relation is not the divine substance. Well, that's a pretty good question, Larry. Let's see what Thomas says about it. Objection 2 from Ralph. Further, Augustine says that every relative expression is something besides the relation expressed, as master is a man and slave is a man. So slave is not man. Slave is a relation. That's what he's saying here, man. And let's see what Ralph says about this. Therefore, if relations exist in God, there must be something else besides relation in God. This can only be his essence. Therefore, essence differs from relation. The boys are getting pretty good questions here today. Number 3, further, the essence of relation is the being referred to another. And the philosopher says, so if relation is the divine essence, it follows that the divine essence is essentially itself a relation to something else. Whereas this is repugnant to the perfection of the divine essence, which is supremely absolute and self-subsisting. Question 3, Article 4. Therefore, relation is not the divine essence. All right, these are all good questions. These are some of the best questions I've ever had. They must have laid off the dope in the back of the galleon and are coming up with some really thoughtful questions. Okay, Thomas says, on the contrary, everything which is not the divine essence is a creature. But relation really belongs to God. And if it is not the divine essence, it is a creature. And it cannot claim the adoration of latria. We know latria and dulia, everybody. I'm sure everybody knows this. Dulia is the respect we give to, kings or saints or Blessed Mother Mary, but latria is the worship, the respect given to God alone. So it cannot. This adoration of latria cannot be given to God. Contrary to what is sung in the preface, let us adore the distinction of the persons and the equality of their majesty. All right, so that's an argument from authority. Weakest kind of argument, but still, he's setting it up. Let's hear what the logical argument is. I answered that it is reported that Gilbert de la Porre erred on this point. I don't know why you got to call him out, Thomas, but here we are. So next, 4, he said that the divine relations are assistant or externally affixed. Thomas is going to come after it. Let's see what he has to say here. To perceive the error here expressed, we must consider that, this gets really a lot, but he clarifies it a little more at the end, and then I'll say something. We must consider that in each of the 9 genera of accidents, there are 2 points to remark. First of all, as we know, there's always 2 points with Thomas. Thomas is big about this 2 points thing. The genre he's talking about are Aristotle's genre of the different ways you can look at accidents or matter, which is like passion, action, passion, relation, quantity, quality, these kind of things. Pardonnez-moi. I am much parched and ready to go downstairs and partake. Okay, in what one is the nature belonging to each one of them, considered as an accident, which commonly applies to each of them as inherent in a subject. For the essence of an accident is to inhere to the substance. Accidents like color, length, whatever, inhere, they let's say suck onto. That's just a metaphorical funny way of saying it. They suck onto the substance of the thing itself. So I am Craig, that's my substance, and one of the accidents is I have gray hair. Used to have brown hair, or whatever it was. I have white skin. Didn't used to have any other kind. But these are substance and accidents. In case you're unfamiliar, you're just starting this teaching. The other point of remark is the proper nature of each one of these genera. In the genera, apart from that of relation, as in quantity and quality, even the true idea of the genus itself is derived from a respect to the subject. It has some kind of relation to the subject. For quantity is called the measure of substance, and quality is the disposition of the substance. But the true idea of relation is not taken from its respect to, finally my candle's kicking up. The wax is burnt away enough. But from its respect to something outside. So if we consider even in creatures relations formally as such, in that aspect that they are said to be assistant and not intrinsically affixed, for in this way they signify a respect which affects a thing related to and tends from that to which that thing to something else. Where I told you there's a bunch of words in this thing, so hold on, we're going to get through it. Whereas if in relation is considered as an accident, it inheres in a subject. So now he's saying if there's relation in God, then it's something that adheres to a subject. He's trying to pick it apart before he wraps it up in a nice bow. And has an accidental existence in it. Gilbert de la Porre considered relation in the former mode only. Oh, Gilbert, why did you do it in the former mode only? What's Thomas going to say? Now, whatever has an accidental existence in creatures, when considered as transferred to God, has a substantial existence. Not accidental, substantial. For there is no accident in God, since all in him is his essence. Well, he's kind of just answering the question with repeating the question, but still, let's see if he gets deeper into it. So, insofar as relation has an accidental existence in creatures, relation really exists in God, has the existence of the divine essence in no way distinct therefrom. But insofar as relation implies respect to something else, no respect to the essence is signified, but rather to its opposite term. Whew, now we got opposite terms. Let's go on further. We got one more little paragraph and he'll finally clarify, I think. Thus, it is manifest that relation really existing in God, is really the same as his essence and only differs in its mode of intelligibility. As in relation is meant that regard to its opposite, which is not expressed in the name of essence. Thus it is clear that in regard, relation and essence do not differ from each other, but are one in the same. Well, it's not really clear, Thomas. But we're going to forgive him because he's talking about how there can be 3 in one, how we can have this kind of relation. So we're going to cut Thomas a little slack here. But what he's saying, it seems, is that the Father and the Son have real personal relation, and that is an eternal relationship. You can hardly say the word. It's like the problem with the word good. You can if you try to explain to someone the word good, you always end up coming back to saying something like, when something's good, when it tastes good. We're getting down to the bedrock of experience here. And in God, there is relation that is eternal. The Son is eternally begotten of the Father, and the Holy Spirit is eternally spirated in their relationship. And that is the way it exists in God. To use these abstract terms to try to express that is rather difficult. But Thomas is doing his best here, so we give him an applause. Reply to objection 1. Maybe he'll clarify it more as he answers Larry's very astute question here. Father in respect to the Son, but such things do not refer to substance. He quoted Augustine, not all that is said of God is said of his substance, for we may say something relatively as Father in respect to the Son, but such things do not refer to the substance. That's a pretty hard one. Let's see what Thomas says. These words of Augustine do not imply that paternity, or any other relation which is in God, is not in its very being the same as the divine essence, but that it is not predicated under the mode of substance, as existing in him to whom it is applied, but in relation. So he's coming against the Sabellian heresy, I suppose. He's saying that what Thomas is saying is trying to explain what Augustine is saying. And he's saying that Augustine is talking about that relation, that paternal relation, is not when the Logos was born into the Virgin Mary's womb, that's when sonship started. He's saying it's not that. But this is an eternal, actual sonship. And that is a relation. I know it's difficult, folks, but again, that's why we do the daily Summa, so you hear these things over and over and over, and things begin to sink in deeper and deeper. But just know, Sabellius thought that God was only called Father when Jesus was conceived in the Virgin's womb. Then he became Father. Thomas is saying, no, that's what Augustine was trying to say. Was not the case. But Augustine was not saying that it's not the case, that the substantial Father and the Son is not substantial. That is what, oh my God. Oh, you gotta love it. You gotta love talking about the Trinity. It's clear, but it's deep and murky. All right, so let's start over again. These words of Augustine do not imply that paternity or any other relation which is in God is not in its very being the same as the divine essence, but that it is not predicated under the mode of the substance as existing in him to whom it is applied, but as relation. So there are said to be two predicaments only in God. Since other predicaments import habitude to that of which they are spoken, both in their generic and their specific nature. But nothing that exists in God can have any relation to that wherein it exists, or of whom it is spoken, except the relation of identity. And this by reason of God's supreme simplicity. Thomas, you got a hard nut to crack here when you're talking about divine simplicity and Trinitarian relationship. That's a hard nut to crack. It's also hard that's why there's this debate with the East and the West regarding God's simplicity and Gregory Palamis's idea of the uncreated energies. Thomas doesn't want to say there's uncreated energies because he says he would think it compromises God's simplicity. And so also with this discussion of the Trinity, how do you have relations in three persons and yet maintain divine simplicity? Thomas is trying to go through it here, and he's giving it his best shot, and it sounds pretty good, but it's deep stuff and hard to understand. Let's just do the very end of this page, and then we'll go into more depths on it tomorrow as we move into Article 3. Reply to objection 2. As the relation which exists in creatures involves not only a regard to another, but also something absolute. So the same applies to God, yet not in the same way. Now, guys, if you missed the beginning of this little broadcast, I inadvertently erased this page, I think. So I'm redoing it. I just redid it. I'm just reading through it fast because we have stuff going on downstairs, and I just got back from Mass. So maybe I'll try to brush up and explain a little more tomorrow of what I just went through and the wordiness of it. And then we'll get into Article 3 tomorrow. All right, guys. Peace. Remember, this is all straw. This is all made for you to go pray and ponder and grow in grace. All right.